Thank you. Good evening, students. We are reached the end of the session, and I think we've had a good session. I mean, from your feedback, I could know that, and you should gauge whether this session was helpful or no. So we have tried to cover the logical aspects, the understanding of the concepts of GST. I'll tell you, GST is a very interesting subject. Read it through, you'll find that there is a linkage with each and every chapter. And with this linkage, we are able to solve a lot of queries and a lot of questions. Since we are able to solve so many questions in just 3 days, imagine that if you spend the whole day on one subject, how many questions more you can solve and how much of your confidence will improve. Just by taking 3 hours or 2.5 per day for 3 days, we were able to clear up our mind so much. So just retrospect or reciprocate this with the whole day, that how much of your effective time you could use in studying a subject completely and working out the problems on one particular topic, so that you can develop more confidence in this. What I have done is just 20%, balance 80%, rest is on you, how you take it up and how you advance your study for this subject. This is an example which you can use for other subjects also, that every subject dedicate complete day for it, study well for it and wholeheartedly, so that with such less time also you could learn a lot of things. So it's not that CA exams are tough. It's like they have made it tough because the length syllabus is voluminous and it involves application of mind. That's the only thing. Once you are breaking these two things, that time management, you do time management for studying and time management at the exam hall also, and then understand the concepts, you'll be able to clear it. It's not a big deal if you have that confidence. Okay. So we will see the questions, like we had said that we'll take up a lot of questions today, and we'll see the statutory update, what is available for us. Okay, saying that for May 2024 specifically, what are the updates which are relevant. So let us start this class session. Let's take up the questions. Nishtala's question is, if there is an employee whose salary is subject to income tax and TDS also. Yes, if it is subject to TDS. Part of his total income is divided into salary and balance is other than salary, subject to TDS under 194J. What are the implications of income tax under GST? Who will pay GST? Okay. So first is, he's an employee. He is getting salary. On salary, Schedule 3 says that there is no GST on any kind of a salary what you pay. Any services provided by an employee to the employer is out of the scope of GST. So there is no GST. Second aspect is, if he gets any professional fees, right? That's what you're saying. Second part is on getting the professional fees. On the professional fees, the company is deducting TDS under 194J, which means there is a service element. That's why it's a service for professional. So whenever he charges a service fees for which he's getting the income, on that, who is the service provider? This employee is the service provider. Now he can wear two hats. He can be an employee and he can be a consultant. For this consultancy charges, the employee will have to pay the GST. So he will see his turnover. If it's crossing 20 lakhs, then he will register and charge the GST on the company. Company will pay the GST and this employee will have to pay the taxes to the government. Okay. With respect to statutory updates, what we need to understand is the relevant updates, whatever has happened, okay, in terms of notifications, circulars, or Finance Act. So latest Finance Act was Finance Act 2024, which was just read by the Finance Minister on 1st February 2024. Is that relevant to us? That is not relevant to us, because all changes up to 31st October 2023 is only what we have to look at. So this Finance Act was laid before the lower bench and the upper bench on just February 2024. So which is after 31st October 23. So that is not relevant. So which is the Finance Act which is relevant? Finance Act 2023, because that was passed before 31st October. So one is, once the finance minister uh, announces the budget in the budget speech, does it become a law? Does it become a finance act? Or when does it become a finance act? ओके, मोहम्मद सोहेल, मैं क्या बोल रहा था कि आपको जो भी अमेंडमेंट्स, नोटिफिकेशंस है, सर्कुलर्स है, और जो भी फाइनेंस एक्ट है जो 31 अक्टूबर 2023 के पहले, बिकॉज दैट्स द कट ऑफ डेट, कि हर एक एग्जाम के लिए कट ऑफ डेट रहता है। मई 2024 के लिए स्पेसिफिकली इंस्टीट्यूट ने कट ऑफ दिया है कि 31 अक्टूबर 2023। उसके पहले जो भी नोटिफिकेशन है वो आपको रेलेवेंट है। तो लास्ट इंस्टीट्यूट का पब्लिकेशन जो हुआ है, उसके बाद जो भी अमेंडमेंट्स है वो इस स्टैट्यूटरी अपडेट में डिस्कस किए जाएंगे, विच वी विल डिस्कस फॉर टुडे। ठीक है। जो 2023 का बिल था वो कब एनेक्ट हुआ है? सो दैट वाज माय क्वेश्चन। यस, बिल असेंटेड बाय बिकम एक्ट बाय अ प्रेसिडेंट बिकम्स एन एक्ट, दैट्स राइट। यस, when it's passed by the finance ministry during presentation of budget. No, during the presentation of budget, it is only a bill. So if you see the budget bill, the finance bill, it is just called as a bill. When it is passed in both the houses and the president gives his assent, then it becomes an act. Now, if you see the act also, it is worded in such a way that it doesn't get implemented. In GST specifically, they say that the Goods and Services Tax Amendment Act shall be enacted from a further date. Just president's assent also is not sufficient. President's assent is sufficient to call that finance bill as a finance act. That is done. But in the provisions relating to GST, they say from a date to be made effective, that will be the date when they're notifying those provisions becomes effective. Okay. So if you see this Finance Act 2023, finance bill was laid, then the president gave its assent on 18th August 2023, but it came into effect only on 1st October 2023. The reason being that they have to get notify it. Why there is a delay in the, once president has given assent, why, what is the requirement of a notification? It is required because GST has two acts. One is CGST and SGST. So whatever assent is given by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and then president gives the assent, that is for the CGST Act. For the SGST Act to be effective, all the states have to pass it in their legislative assemblies, in their assemblies also. So all the states also have to do that exercise of passing in their legislative assemblies. So by the time everybody passes it, then the notification is issued. That's where you'll see that the Income Tax Act is effective when the president gives the assent, but the GST amendments, whatever happens, it takes so much time because all the state have to approve it and it gets notified. Okay, so that's the reason if you see Finance Act 2023 was enacted on 18th August but became effective on the 1st of October. Okay, so before we take the statutory updates, there are quite few questions. I will take 2 to 3 questions so we can understand this. When notification in the official gazette, correct? Lokesh's question is, can you explain me question number 20? Okay, of page number 8.110 and 8.111. Sure. Just the question I need to explain, right? So answer, you know that. Yeah, this we had discussed yesterday, Lokesh. We had discussed the answer on allocation of ITC as well. Sunil Menaria's question is on page 3.19 of the study material. Amendments in the list of notified services on which payable under reverse charge. What is the difference between services supplied by the central government, state government, union territory, or local authority? Yeah. 3.19. Let's just open this. 3.19, or is it? Yeah, basically the reverse charge, correct? So 3.19 has 2 points. There is services supplied by the central government, state government, union territory to a business entity, excluding renting of immovable property, to any business entity located in a taxable territory or any person registered in the GST Act. And question number two, okay, what is your first question is, what is the difference between services supplied by the central government by way of renting of immovable property or any registered person? So what is your question? So there are two things, according to me, what I understood your question is why there is two things over here. Under 5, there is one mention, and 5A it says so, right? So the reason why it says is simple. 5 says the services which is supplied by the central government services supplied by the central government, state government, or union territory or local authority to a business entity, excluding renting, then the business entity located will be the pay the tax under reverse charge. So any services which the central government, state government, or union territory provides to a business entity, they will pay tax other than renting. So renting is taken out from 5 and then discussed in 5A. Why? Because on renting, they specifically wanted to charge only those persons who are registered under GST and not any business entity located. Okay. So if you are a business entity, you are not registered under GST, then if you're taking any space from the government for your business, then you don't have to pay GST because you're just a business entity. You're not a person who are registered under GST. So to give that special privilege, from 5, they have taken off renting of immovable property and specifically mentioned under 5A. Got it? In case of a GTS, services received by an NRTP, who will pay the GST liability? Now, NRTP, if the non-resident taxable person, the term itself is a non-resident taxable person, since he is a taxable person who is registered, then he will pay the GST under RCM. what document is issued by the supplier in case of an RCM? He will issue just an invoice. It will not be treated as a tax invoice for the purpose of GST. It will be an invoice because he has to get his money, right? So for that, he will give a normal invoice. ICAI giving fees to center for conducting exam. Is it liable to GST? ICSI giving fees to center. Center in the sense, is it like an examination center? And then they are conducting exam, right? So I would feel that this is not a exam which the educational institution is conducting. It is letting out its space and they are conducting the examination over there. So this will not be in the nature of educational services for that center. Like there's a college and college is giving its space to the CA Institute and CA Institute is saying that you will have to conduct exams here. Then it is not in the course of educational services of this center. It is the educational for the ICAI. So I think this will be taxable. Right. Next question is explanation inserted within how many years clarifying the scope will have retrospective effect. It is not with how many years. It is that when the government says something is retrospective, then it becomes retrospective and not by the nature of number of years saying that if I've passed within 10 years, it'll become retrospective. Not that way. If any act is amended to make it retrospective, the government has the authority to make it as retrospective. Then it will be not otherwise where the act itself is amended to make it as a retrospective effect, then it will be retrospective. Pritesh, on payment of taxes, I will upload it because I think everything is uploaded. Input tax credit, you could please ask the Board of Studies directly, they will upload. Okay, Vaishali's question, if service is rendered on 10th June and issued invoice on 15th August. Okay, so you are issuing the invoice on 15th August. Time limit was 30 days. Now issued the invoice late and payment is received on 20th August because mistake in work, then again service rendered on 12th December, then full payment received 20th December. So there are two transactions. One is you have rendered the service on 10th June and issued on 15th August. Payment is received after that day. So time of supply is first 10th August for this service. Later on, there's a mistake and again you have rendered a service on 12th December. So there is a second service which you're rendering. Even though it is linked to the first service, there is a second service which you're rendering. So there are two services. First is you are rendering on 10th and second you're rendering on 12th. So there are two services which you're rendering. So there will be two time of supplies. Okay. ITC on general insurance taken on car used by the employees of manufacturing company for official purposes is blocked. Right. Any car purchased is blocked itself. So on the insurance, which is for that car is also blocked. Can the state GST make any amendments in the state GST law like that in SGST law, there is amendment which CGST will not make 99.9% there cannot be any such case except some small differences like the authority given to the officer. So those minor aspects can have some difference, but otherwise there cannot be that only SGST makes a difference and CGST doesn't make, that will not be possible because all these amendments will be discussed at the council, at the GST council, and in GST council, who are there? Central finance minister and the respective ministers from the state. So when there is a consent there should not be any difference in the SGST Act and the CGST Act. Unregistered transport agency providing service to an unregistered dealer, then no GST, yes, no GST. If I buy a ticket in Mumbai for Bihar to Mumbai, then which state will collect tax? So time of supply, not the state. What kind of service? If it is an airport service, we have seen under time of supply. So that is the respective place you will get your answer for. Business entity may sole proprietorship included? Yes, sole proprietor is also included as a business entity. If a GT is providing services to a registered dealer, then who will pay GST? The registered dealer. If grant of registration is on 25th July, then revised invoice will be issued within 30 days, correct? So by 24th August. How can I know that GST number is a registered valid GST number? I had shown on the GST portal. You will have to mention the GST number and check the details. You will get to know that. Invoice issued for full service earlier, later, not issued any invoice. Not possible because, okay, if you have issued invoice and later you're doing some correction, but you have not raised the invoice, then it will become a complimentary service, right? So second service is without consideration. So no consideration, no GST. So it will be treated as the first invoice itself is there issued for the second correction, what you're doing. Can you explain core fields? Yeah, core fields are those fields in the registration which are get authenticated by the officer. They are called as core fields. As I know, the cash transfer to minor head in e-cash ledger, irrespective of major head, but major head to major head is not. It's confusing. Okay, so from one major head to another major head from CGST, SGST, it is possible, and minor head is also possible now. If a manufacturing is unregistered and he supplies goods to a registered dealer, can he collect GST? A unregistered person cannot collect GST at all. So if he's supplying to a registered person or unregistered person, he cannot collect GST from anyone. He has to take registration first. So can ITC credit be set off with ITC reverse liability? What is ITC reverse liability? ITC credit, we have discussed the conditions. So ITC credit can be utilized only for those specific reasons: payment of output tax, right? Even reverse charge you cannot pay. So ITC reversal, reverse charge ITC you cannot pay with ITC credit ledger. Yes, the site is gst.gov.in. Okay, other PDFs I was heard that this was uploaded. Let me talk to sir and I will get this uploaded. Producer is hiring a music company on whom GST gets imposed. Both are registered, right? So if the music company, since is it under RCM, it is only where the artist is involved. In this case, artist is not involved, a producer and music company. So music company who is providing the service, they will pay the GST. If a sole proprietor is registered under GST for service business, can he take benefit of mobile, bike, computer, etc.? All the credits are available except the block credit. So whatever is block credit on that he cannot take, otherwise everything else. Questions of the problems also I will upload it tomorrow itself, Lokesh. You will get it tomorrow. Supply by unregistered person to registered dealer will be payable under RCM? No, it will not be. Okay. Now we will take up the statutory update part. Okay, so I was saying you how the bill becomes an act, right? So the bill gets passed by both the houses of parliament, and then the president assents, makes it an act. So in this material, we will read about the significant notification circulars issued between 1st May 23 to 31st October, because till 30th April is already included in this material. So what are the respective statutory updates in these respective chapters? You will understand this. Okay. First is under supply under GST. Okay. So earlier under GST in Schedule 3, you will see what was the mention that actionable claims other than betting, gambling, and lottery, okay, was mentioned under Schedule 3. Schedule 3 is one schedule which says that the heading is transaction under this Schedule 3 are not liable to GST, wherein we were always saying that there is nil rated supply, exempt supply, and no GST supply. So Schedule 3, you could say a no GST supply because on supplies under Schedule 3. One example is employee providing services to the employer is part of Schedule 3. On that, there was no GST. Similarly, actionable claims was outside GST, but these three things were part of the GST. Actionable claims was outside GST other than betting, gambling, and lottery. So only on betting, gambling, and lottery, there was GST liability. Apart from this, all other actionable claims were excluded. Okay, what is actionable claim? A right to claim something. I have sold something to my customer, okay, and after I sell, I have a right to claim the amount. That is a actionable claim where I have a right to do some action against him. That is called as actionable claim. Okay, this actionable claim, other than betting, gambling, and lottery, was outside the scope of GST because of Schedule 3. Right now, actionable claim other than specified actionable claims has been mentioned, which means earlier GST on actionable claims of betting, gambling, and lottery only was there. Now they are expanding it by saying that actionable claims other than specified actionable claims will be outside GST, which means what is the specified actionable claims? Only that will be liable to GST. And now new clause has been inserted defining what is a specified actionable claims. Okay, what is the specified actionable claims? Betting, gambling, and lottery is covered, and many additional things also are covered. First three things were there. The effect is instead of providing everything in Schedule 3, they are referring now to this term called specified actionable claim. So specified actionable claims only are liable to GST. What are these specified actionable claims? Earlier, betting, gambling, and lottery were there. Now, casinos, horse racing, and online money gaming. These are also included under the concept of actionable claims which are liable to GST. So these specified actionable claims are liable to GST. You would have heard in a lot of news that online gamings are all liable for GST. That is because of this amendment. Online money gaming, horse racing, and casinos are coming under the purview of GST with effect from 1st October 2023. So from 1st October 2023, GST is leviable on money gaming, online money gaming, casinos, and horse racing. Okay. What is online money gaming? Online gaming means any online gaming in which players pay or deposit money or money's worth, including virtual digital assets. So our normal gamings, online gamings is not there. This is only in respect of online money gamings. Okay, which means what? When you pay something for a game and you bet something in which players pay or deposit money or money's worth, including virtual digital assets, matlab bitcoins, yeah, any kind of those assets also you give. That is also treated as money gaming. So any games on which you pay money and you expect to earn money, like there is a lottery. Okay, lot of money games are there wherein you put some money in a pot, and through various schemes you will get some reward through money itself, which is an online game in which players pay or deposit money or money's worth, including virtual digital asset, in the expectation of winning money or money's worth, including virtual digital assets in any event, including game, scheme, competition, or any other activity or process, whether or not its outcome or performance is based on skill, chance, or both, and whether the game is permissible or otherwise under any law for the time being. So if you put some money and you are earning through that, say, any kind of activity which is happening in that app, or through skills that you have to use your brains, and there is a card games, you can tell it's a game of skill. Still, any kind of a skill or chance or anything for which you are getting a return is a online money game, and that is liable to GST now. Online gaming means offering of a game on the internet or an electronic network and includes online money gaming. Virtual digital asset means all these assets which have in the nature of cryptocurrency. They are all called as virtual digital asset. And definition of supplier is also amended to mean a person who organizes or arranges directly or indirectly or supply of specified actionable claims. So the company who is holding the money or organizing these online games are called as a supplier now. So the value of horse racing, casinos, and online money giving has been prescribed under the valuation rules, which is not applicable for us because अपने को valuation rules नहीं है. But horse racing, casinos, and online money gaming are included under the concept of supply and are liable to GST. Dream 11, right? Rummy, yes, a lot of examples. Purchase of online game is also liable to GST, not under reverse charge. So when you deposit some money, okay, on that the gaming company is supposed to charge GST. So if you are paying 100 rupees, on 100 rupees they are providing service, so they have to collect GST on that. MPL, Winzu, wow, a lot of people experience with online gaming are coming up. Rummy, 365, Dream 11, MPL, Winzu, all of that, wherein you put money with a expectation to get something, is all online money games. What if I won in Dream 11 game rupees 1 crore? Okay. So how it works is when you pool in the money, how you're getting 1 crore, because there are 10 lakhs being deposited by 10 people. So on the 10 lakh, they will collect 28%. And on the winning, again, there will not be double GST, right? Because it's a winning. So only 1 lakh will get taxable. When you're depositing 10 lakhs, on that, they will collect 28% GST, the highest rate. And then when you win, there is no GST again. Of course, on that, you have TDS implication under income tax. But for GST, when you deposit the money itself, whether you lose, I've invested 10 lakhs, you have invested 10 lakhs, like that, we have 10 people who are invested, are pooled in the money, in the pool. When they put in this 10 lakh itself, GST will be collected. Now, I've not won anything, I've lost fully. Still, GST government has got the GST. Now that one person who wins, he will get the money for that. And on that GST is already paid, so there's no GST again on the winnings. Correct. TDS and tax flat 30%. Yes, Ram, you have seen that, right? Cash ledger में transfer नहीं होता. Yeah, that is correct. So I was only referring to electronic credit ledger, but now I'm getting that it's even for cash ledger is your question. Cash ledger में transfer नहीं हो सकता. Let's proceed to the next amendment. Supply of food and beverages at cinema halls. Okay, so we know on restaurant services, the tax is 5%, correct? Restaurant services में 5% है. Now the question came up for consideration, whether eating joint, hotel, restaurant जाते हैं तब 5% है. Now whether when we go to a mall, okay, there they sell refreshments, eating stall, kiosk, counter, restaurant themselves, or they may give a contract to a third party कि ये food items I am not selling, I am giving it to a contractor. Whatever be the case, is it a restaurant or no was the question. Should they charge higher rate or should they charge 5% is the question. Now it is clarified through this circular wherein it says that supply of food or beverages in a cinema hall is taxable as restaurant services as long as the food and beverages are supplied by way of or as a part of service and supplied independent of the cinema exhibition service. Okay? मतलब क्या? अगर आप टिकट लेते हो, ticket is separate and for the popcorn you have to pay separately, correct? It is served, then the ticket will be sold at the ticket price. The popcorn will be taxable as food and beverages at the rate of 5%. Okay? When the sale of cinema ticket and supply and food of beverage are clubbed together, 1,000 rupees, there are some theaters which say that 1,000 rupees, you will get popcorn and cold drink free. Then it is a bundled supply which satisfies the test of composite supply. Okay, not a combo ticket. Okay, wherein you pay online, there you get that you can add the food, there you can add the along with the purchase of ticket, you can add a popcorn and a drink. That is not a bundled service, where the price itself is set at 1,000 rupees for this seat and popcorn and cold drink will be served. That is a composite supply. Okay, then the entire supply will attract GST at the rate applicable to the service of exhibition of cinema, which is the principal supply. So there's a difference. When you book online or you book saying that along with the ticket, do you want it? If they ask you separately, it means there are two supplies which are mixed together, wherein they are bundling it up and giving it to you. Okay, artificially bundling is a mixed supply, but when the price itself is such that you are not bifurcating the price for popcorn, you're not bifurcating the price for the drink, then it is a composite supply. Kiosk is a display screen at cafeterias. Kiosk is the stall where you get the popcorns and other drinks is a kiosk. Clear with this cinema theater? अनु, विनिंग अमाउंट पर जीएसटी इनकम टैक्स बोर्ड चार्ज करेंगे? नहीं, क्योंकि आपने ऑलरेडी जब आपने अमाउंट पूल इन किया है तब जीएसटी लग गया है, तब विनिंग अमाउंट पर जीएसटी फिर से नहीं लगी. तो सिनेमा थिएटर्स का क्या बोलता है? पहले कंफ्यूजन था कि सिनेमा थिएटर्स को 18% चार्ज करना चाहिए एज अ प्रोविजन ऑफ सर्विस और रेस्टोरेंट सर्विसेज. दिस क्लैरिफिकेशन इज सेइंग दैट इट इज अ रेस्टोरेंट सर्विस. जब भी आप फूड कंज्यूम करते हो इन अ रेस्टोरेंट, यू हैव टू पे रेस्टोरेंट सर्विस का रेट. एंड ऑन द सेकेंड पार्ट ऑफ गिविंग अ composite supply where a food is served along with the ticket price itself, then it is a composite supply. फिर आपको अलग से GST on the food you don't have to charge. Whatever is the rate on the cinema hall, which is 18%, वही rate आपको food पे भी लगेगा. When you buy cold drinks using coin vending machines, then it's a independent supply. So on whatever is the rate on the cold drinks, that will apply. Let's move forward to the third clarification. Clarification on taxability of shares held in a subsidiary company by a holding company. Okay. A holding company is there. Holding company has a subsidiary company. Holding company is investing in a subsidiary company. So the issue was whether this holding company investing shares in a subsidiary company is a supply of service. How can there be a supply of service was the question, but there were some authorities, the GST officers who were treating that there is, by issuance of share, there is a service. So you have to pay GST on that. But to clarify this board has come up with a circular which says that we have clarified that in terms of issue of securities, the definition of service excludes securities, and even the definition of goods excludes securities. And shares are one type of securities, which simply means that on issue of securities, there is no GST. So it is clarifying that it cannot be said that the service is being provided by the holding company to the subsidiary solely on the basis that a specified SAC code is there, wherein the one SAC code this says that services provided by the holding companies, that is holding securities of companies and enterprises for the purpose of owning a controlling interest. Since there is no supply, then charging something because there is a SAC code will not be right. So the activity of holding of shares of a subsidiary company by the holding company cannot be treated as a supply of service. Just because there is a rate in the rate notification, that doesn't mean I will charge it. There has to be a supply, then you will go to the rate notification. You will not go to the rate notification and then identify there is a supply or no. First, you have to identify what is the supply. Once you have identified what is the supply, then you will go to the specific rate to see for HSN code for goods and SSC code for services. If there is no supply, then you will not enter HSN or SSC. Okay. Then the third part is on charge of GST. Okay, so we were discussing on supply, now on charge. Tax on services. We know that under RCM, any services provided by a director to the company is liable to RCM. Okay. Tax on services supplied by a director of a company in his personal capacity, such as renting of immovable property to the company, whether RCM is payable or no. It is clarified that services supplied by a director of a company in his personal capacity, such as services supplied by way of renting, are not taxable under RCM because he's not providing any service to the company on which RCM should attract in his capacity as a director. When the RCM attracts when he's providing any service as a director. But this renting of immovable property is not in his capacity as a director, but in his capacity as a landlord. So if he's providing any services in his capacity as a landlord, if it is a commercial use, then it will be taxable at the end of a director itself under forward charge. So if he's providing services of renting to others also, and he's providing some renting to the company, then it will be under forward charge, provided he is in providing services to the extent of more than 20 lakhs, but the company need not pay under reverse charge. Only those services supplied by the director, which are supplied by him in his capacity as a director, matlab he's getting some new business, and for that he's providing professional services as a director, then it will be taxable under RCM, but not under other services which he's providing in his individual capacity. Nistala, right. This is not service even on the basis of HSN SSC code number 99. Correct. हिंदी में जब डायरेक्टर कुछ सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता है कंपनी को, तीन चीजें होती हैं. डायरेक्टर प्रोवाइड सर्विसेज एज एन एम्प्लॉय. वी नो दैट, राइट. अ मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर इज एन एम्प्लॉय ऑफ द कंपनी. तो अगर मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर सैलरी लेता है तब उसके ऊपर जीएसटी फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल नहीं है. सेकेंड, डायरेक्टर सर्विस प्रोवाइड करता है एज अ प्रोफेशन और एज इन हिज कैपेसिटी एज अ डायरेक्टर. एग्जाम्पल क्या होता है, वो कुछ प्रोफेशनल फीस प्रोवाइड करता है कंपनी को, उसके ऊपर कंपनी को आरसीएम पे करना पड़ेगा. और क्या एग्जाम्पल हो सकता है, वो डायरेक्टर मीटिंग अटेंड करता है, बोर्ड मीटिंग्स, उसके लिए डायरेक्टर सिटिंग फीस पे करते हैं, उसके लिए भी रिवर्स चार्ज पे करना पड़ेगा. थर्ड केस इज व्हेन द डायरेक्टर प्रोवाइड्स से रेंटिंग. तो ये अभी क्लैरिफाई करता है. डायरेक्टर अभी रेंटल प्रोवाइड करता है कंपनी को, तो वो लैंडलॉर्ड की कैपेसिटी में प्रोवाइड करता है, तो उसके लिए भी आरसीएम नहीं आएगा। अगर डायरेक्टर का रेंटल क्रॉस होता है 20 लाख, तब वो रजिस्ट्रेशन करके फॉरवर्ड चार्ज में जीएसटी चार्ज करेगा, लेकिन कंपनी को रिवर्स चार्ज में पे करने की जरूरत नहीं। डॉक्टर के केस में जीएसटी लगती है नहीं, डॉक्टर हेल्थ केयर सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हैं, तो डॉक्टर को जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन की जरूरत नहीं। एम्प्लॉयर प्रोवाइडिंग एम्प्लॉय कार एज अ बोनस, जीएसटी पेएबल। सो एनी कंसिडरेशन गिफ्ट, सो इट इज इन द नेचर ऑफ अ गिफ्ट। मयूर, गिफ्ट के लिए शेड्यूल 3 में देखोगे आप कि लिमिट है 50,000 पर ईयर। अगर 50,000 के ऊपर कुछ गिफ्ट प्रोवाइड करते हैं तब जीएसटी लगेगा। बोनस कार एज अ बोनस तो नहीं सुना है, बिकॉज एनी कंसिडरेशन अदर देन कैश विल बी ट्रीटेड एज अ गिफ्ट, और उसके ऊपर जीएसटी आ जाएगा इफ द वैल्यू इज मोर देन 50,000 पर ईयर। ठीक है। अमेंडमेंट इन द लिस्ट ऑफ नोटिफाइड सर्विसेज ऑन विच टैक्स इज पेएबल अंडर रिवर्स चार्ज, तो हमने रिवर्स चार्ज का फुल डिटेल देख लिया है। नाउ देर आर सम अमेंडमेंट्स अंडर द रिवर्स चार्ज, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। It is bonus, but still it should be a bonus in cash. If you give bonus in a consideration, in non-consideration, bonus in terms of a non value based, if it is none other than cash, then it will be treated as a gift, and more than 50,000 is liable to GST. Amendment in the list of notified services on which tax is payable under reverse charge with effect from 20th October. आपको with effect date तो याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. This is only for reference. You don't have to actually mention in the in your answers when it is effective from. You just have to mention the provisions. Now, somebody was asking on part number 5, that is again come here. Services provided by a central government, services which is supplied by the central government, state government, or union territory, other than the services provided, which is services of post and ministry of railways. Like postal department services is outside the reverse charge, which means what? Any services provided by the postal department, post services, registered post services, they are providing to another government entity, they will charge GST under forward charge. Similarly, any services provided by the Ministry of Railways, okay, any services which the railways provide, say booking of tickets to another ministry, they will charge GST under forward charge. It will not be under reverse charge. Okay. And services provided to any businesses. So earlier it was outside, which means the businesses were liable to pay tax under reverse charge. Now the Ministry of Railways, that is the railways itself, will pay GST and not the business entity. And any services again under 5A also, they've excluded Ministry of Railways to say that any services provided by railways to any person registered under GST, it will be under forward charge. Ministry of Railway itself will charge GST. You don't have to pay GST under reverse charge. House given by a company to the employee for residential purposes free of cost. Is it GST? Yes, it's in the nature of perquisites, and on that GST will be payable. करेक्ट, टिकट्स पे जीएसटी लगता है. करेक्ट, जीएस टिकट्स पे जीएसटी लगता है. पहले अगर वो टिकट्स के अलावा दूसरे सर्विसेज प्रोवाइड करते थे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रेलवेज, तो फिर वो जीएसटी चार्ज नहीं करते, लेकिन अभी उनको चार्ज करना पड़ेगा. से सर्विसेज बाय द डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ पोस्ट एंड मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रेलवेज, रेलवेज सिर्फ टिकट्स इशू नहीं करते, दूसरे सर्विसेज भी प्रोवाइड करते हैं, तो सभी के ऊपर अभी जीएसटी फॉरवर्ड चार्ज पे लगे. Then tax on passenger transport service. This is very important and very crucial for our examination, because passenger transport services के ऊपर e-commerce company used to pay GST, right? जैसे आप हमने डिस्कस किया था ना, in terms of a ओला एंड उबर जब कैब सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हैं तब ई कॉमर्स कंपनी जीएसटी पे करती है ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ द कार ऑपरेटर। नाउ इसको एक्सपैंड कर दिया गया है टू कवर सर्विसेज बाय ऑमनीबस। ऑमनीबस मतलब बड़ी बस जहाँ पे मल्टीपल पीपल कैन सिट एंड गो, पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट जैसे बड़ी बस होती है। एंड इफ दिस ऑमनीबस इज लिंक टू एन ई कॉमर्स कंपनी, पहले सिर्फ कैब सर्विसेज था एंड फिर ऑटो रिक्शाज आ गया। जनरली ऑटो रिक्शाज आर exempted, लेकिन इफ यू use an auto rickshaw through an e-commerce, then the e-commerce company will pay GST. Now, in this e-commerce ka burden, they have added one more thing, which is if you are providing a omnibus through an e-commerce, then also GST will be payable by this e-commerce company. With effect from 20th October 23, services by way of transportation of passengers by an omnibus has been excluded from the above entry, and a separate category of service has been introduced for transportation of passenger by an omnibus. मतलब पहले एक जगह एक्सक्लूजन करके एक और जगह पे मेंशन कर दिया है, and now they are saying that exclusion है and new categories added so that they can amend it. The impact is any services by an omnibus, okay, through an e-commerce is liable to GST. Because services by way of transportation of passengers by an omnibus, except where the person supplying such service through e-commerce is a company. Okay. So with effect from 20th October, the tax on services by way of transportation of passengers by an omnibus provided by a company through an e-commerce is not payable by e-commerce company. It will be payable by the company itself. So दो चीजें हैं. One is omnibus is providing services, then through an e-commerce will pay. Lekin if this omnibus is a company, then e-commerce will not pay. This omnibus company itself will pay it. Okay. जो अगर बस कंपनी होती है, अगर बस कंपनी है, अगर वो प्रोप्राइटरशिप है, पार्टनरशिप है, तब उसका लायबिलिटी ई कॉमर्स पे आएगा। लेकिन ये बस कंपनी अगर प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी है या पब्लिक लिमिटेड कंपनी है, देन जीएसटी विल बी पेड बाय दिस प्राइवेट लिमिटेड और पब्लिक लिमिटेड बस कंपनी इटसेल्फ, नॉट बाय द ई कॉमर्स। Rate omnibus in both cases, yes, whatever is the rate on passenger transport service, that itself will apply. Passenger transport service पे 5% है, वही rate दोनों पे लगेगा. Clear with this? All of these are very important because generally in exams we see on the theoretical aspects, we get questions from the latest amendments. So that's why we are going with the amendments as given by the institute itself. Place of supply of goods purchased over the counter in one state being transported to another state by the buyer. Okay. Now what happens is when you supply something, okay, over the counter, you don't know whether the receiver is from this state or from the other state. So आपको क्या charge करना है? That is what we have to see. Okay. So we will have to decide. Yeah, Parthasarthi, sentence difficult. E-commerce or omnibus is a company? No, omnibus is a company because e-commerce can be anything. The part they mentioned is where the service is provided by a omnibus, which is a company. Then the company, which is a omnibus, the omnibus company will pay GST if it's a company. If it is not a company, then the e-commerce will pay the GST under the liability under 9(5). Now, we were talking on this section 10 of the IGST Act, which says that when you supply something over the counter, will you charge CGST, SGST, or IGST? There was a confusion. So that's why they have come up with this amendment in section 10. Yeah, this chart will help you. When the place of supply in case of OTC sales, OTC sales means over the counter sales. You have sold something over the counter of your shop to an unregistered person. Then should you charge CGST, or IGST is the question. Now, if you supply to somebody and he's giving you the address, this address of the unregistered person is there. If he's registered, no problem. You know that you have to charge CGST, SGA, or IGST. But now over the counter, a person come who is not interested in claiming the credit, but the government is interested in the collect tax, right? So that's why they say that when the address of the unregistered person is recorded in the invoice, I am a person registered in Karnataka. I am selling something over the counter. Now, if this person who's coming to my shop is giving me his address as as Mysore of in Karnataka, then I will mention his address, and I know this is within the state, so I have to charge CGST, SGST. Now, if a person from Mumbai comes and he gives his address, that full address, and he gives Mumbai, then I know that he is an interstate purchaser. I have to charge IGST. Now, address doesn't mean full address. Even if he gives the state, even if the state is mentioned in the invoice, that will decide the place of supply. And if address is not given, he comes, he buys it off and goes, and I don't know, I'm not interested in the state where he is coming from. Then the place of supply will be the location of the supplier, which means I will charge CGST and SGST. If I know the state, I will charge that respective state's tax. If I don't know the place, it will always be the local tax. Clear? Okay. Next is on clarification regarding place of supply in case of supply of services in respect of advertisement sector. Okay. So the advertisement companies provide a lot of services. Now, the question which came up is what should be the place of supply? Like how the question came up for place of supply for a supply to an unregistered dealer. Like that, there was a question which came up for supply of services in respect of advertisement company. Okay, what is the issue? The issue was you are doing an advertisement at a space. मतलब जहां पे बिल्डिंग के ऊपर बड़ा पोल रहता है उसके ऊपर आप होर्डिंग डाल देते हो तो वो सर्विस वी नो दैट प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई में हमने डिसाइड किया है कि ये जनरल सर्विस है या इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी रिलेटेड सर्विस है इफ इट इज एन इमूवेबल प्रॉपर्टी रिलेटेड सर्विस देन आपको CGST SGST चार्ज करना पड़ेगा बिकॉज वेयर द प्रॉपर्टी इज लोकेटेड दैट विल बी द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई बट इफ इट इज अदर देन एन इमोवल प्रॉपर्टी रिलेटेड सर्विसेज तो फिर रिसिपेंट के बेसिस पे आपको चार्ज करना पड़ेगा बिकॉज advertisement service is a general service. If you know the registered person's address, then you will charge that person's IGST. Otherwise, आपको CGST, SGST charge करना पड़ेगा. That's why this clarification has come up. It says that where the hoardings or structure is erected on the land, it should be classified as an immovable structure or fixture. It should be considered as an immovable structure, and the place of supply by way of supply of an immovable property or grant of rights for use of immovable property shall be governed. मतलब जो भी immovable property related service है, the place of supply will be the place where this structure is located. जैसे आप say a big company which is a Himalaya company. Now Himalaya company gives you you're an advertising company. It gives you says that you have to put my hoardings in the state of Gujarat. Okay, तो गुजरात में सर्विस प्रोवाइड कर दिया आपने तो फिर आप गुजरात एंटिसिटी से बिल करोगे टू हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर विच इज इन मुंबई. नाउ हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर को आप जब सप्लाई कर रहे हो then you will charge CGST and SGST. फिर हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर which is registered in Mumbai उसको credit नहीं मिलेगा because it's an immovable property related service. वो CGST SGST charge कर सकता है, IGST charge नहीं कर सकता है because place of supply is in Gujarat. ठीक है. Therefore, the place of supply of services provided by way of supply of space on hoarding or structure for advertisement or grant of right to use the hoarding or structure for advertisement in this case would be the location where the hoarding or structure is located. So, जहाँ पे hoarding or structure located है, that will become the place of supply. Second issue related to this which came up is there may be another case where the advertisement company wants to display its advertisement on hoarding or billboards at a specific location, availing the services of a vendor. The responsibility of arranging the hoarding or billing lies with the vendor. मतलब मैं directly एडवर्टाइजमेंट सर्विस फ्रॉम द लैंडलॉर्ड नहीं ले रहा हूँ, मैं एक वेंडर से ले रहा हूँ. वेंडर को बोल दिया मैंने मेरे को एडवर्टाइजमेंट चाहिए. Now it is vendor's responsibility to put hoarding at various locations. वो मेरे को क्या बिल देगा? एडवर्टाइजमेंट का बिल देगा एंड नॉट द बिल ऑफ होर्डिंग एट दिस प्लेस. ये से इंडिविजुअल नहीं देगा, मैंने फुल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट उनको दे दिया है. अब वो जब मुझे बिल देगा वो मुझे एडवर्टाइजमेंट सर्विसेज का बिल देगा, नॉट फॉर डिस्प्ले ऑफ बोर्ड और अ स्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है. इन दैट केस services provided by such vendor to advertisement company are purely in the nature of advertisement services in respect of which place of supply shall be determined under 12(2), which means अगर same advertisement service जो मैंने first example कहा था हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर providing taking services of a hoarding directly, so then it will be CGST and SGST. लेकिन हिंदुस्तान लीवर अगर एक एडवर्टाइजमेंट कंपनी का सर्विस लेता है और उसको बोलता है मुझे in 10 states I want services. So ये एजेंसी जो है उसका रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है टू गो एंड आइडेंटिफाई कहाँ पे होर्डिंग डालना है, राइट. सो दिस एजेंसी विल चार्ज वन बिल टू हिंदुस्तान यूनिलीवर एंड इट विल चार्ज IGST एंड the hoarding जो location है that they will provide bill to this agency which is also called vendor in case, and they will charge CGST and SGST. But this agency, yeah, billboards, तो billboards कुछ जो services है मुझे वो direct advertisement service का bill देगा, not on the hoarding bill. Clear? Okay. On the previous question, sir, if a person from Mumbai comes to Kanpur, then I will charge IGST. Correct. When I will charge IGST, like जब मैं invoice में mention करूंगा कि कानपुर या full address भी mention करता हूँ, तब I will charge IGST. Yeah. On e-commerce, Pritesh, your point is, in nutshell, A Limited providing services passenger transport by omnibus through e-commerce platform, then A Limited have to pay GST. Correct. And the same if B, who is an individual person providing services passenger transport by omnibus through e-commerce platform, then e-commerce service provider has to pay GST. Correct. ओके मयूर, इसमें क्या कहा है, जब आप बिलबोर्ड्स का सर्विसेज लेते हो, डायरेक्टली लेते हो, तब जो बिलबोर्ड्स कहाँ पे है दैट विल डिटरमाइन द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई. करेक्ट. जो बिलबोर्ड सप्लायर है वो CGST ST चार्ज करेगा क्योंकि उसका तो बिलबोर्ड वहीं पे उसी स्टेट में. लेकिन अगर आप बिलबोर्ड कंपनी डायरेक्टली उनसे आप सर्विस नहीं लेते हो, लेकिन बीच में एक वेंडर या फिर एडवर्टाइजमेंट एजेंसी से सर्विस लेते हो, तब एडवर्टाइजमेंट एजेंसी आपको इंडिविजुअल लोकेशन का सर्विस चार्ज नहीं करेगा. he will provide you advertisement services. उसका place of supply आपको determine करना है from the advertisement agency's perspective where you are located. So place of supply will be where you are located and not where the billboard is held because the nature of service is changed. Ultimately मिल रहा है same, लेकिन you will give advertisement services to the client. That's why the place of supply will change in that case. ठीक है. Then chapter 5 on exemptions. Exemptions में mostly we have discussed during our discussions, but specifically जो amendments related है that we will discuss. सैटेलाइट लॉन्च सर्विसेज पहले इसरो और एंट्रिक्स फुल एग्जेम्प्टेड थे, अभी उनका एग्जेम्पशन हट गया है. सर सेकेंड केस में पीओएस एजेंट का प्लेस होगा नहीं. सेकेंड केस में एजेंट का प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई नहीं होगा. लोकेशन ऑफ सप्लायर विल बी द एजेंट्स प्लेस, लेकिन प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई विल बी वेयर दिस कंपनी इज लोकेटेड. If the company is registered, then the place of supply will be where the company is located. And if it is unregistered, then it will be the location of supplier. But in advertisement services, when you are providing services to a registered company, the company where it is registered, that is the place of supply. कुमारी अभी आ रही है आवाज? Okay, let's get into the amendments in exemptions. Existing exemptions जो change हो गए हैं. First is a ISRO services, Indian Space Research Organization, जो फिलहाल ही चंद्रयान का लॉन्च किया था. उनके सर्विसेज जनरली वो किसी को कंसिडरेशन चार्ज नहीं करते हैं बिकॉज उनको सिर्फ फंडिंग मिलती है. लेकिन अभी इंडियन स्पेस रिसर्च ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के सर्विसेज एग्जेम्पशन से हट गए हैं. सो ओके, सो Indian Space Research Organization and Antrix Corporation or New Space India Limited will be liable to GST. Okay. Second part, again, same thing is coming here because the Ministry of Railways were earlier not mentioned. Now it is specifically excluded that any services by Ministry of Railways will be taxable. Okay. Abhilash, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 not uploaded. Okay, I will get this uploaded. If they don't upload, I will myself upload it. Don't worry. So Ministry of Railways, aircraft and vessels, even though these are all government, जैसे aircraft कौन चलाता है? Government चलाती है. Except private airlines, if it's a government airline, then they are a vessel, they will all pay GST under forward charge. And services provided by the central government up to a turnover of such amount not exceeding financial as it makes it eligible. So all of these services will get excluded from there and it will be taxable. Good question, Nenchi. NASA is not registered in India. So NASA के ऊपर GST charge नहीं हो सकता है because it's not in India. Same thing, various exemptions वहां जहां पे सर्विसेज ऑफ सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, सभी जगह पे मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रेलवेज हटा दिया गया. क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट सर्विसेज अलग अलग वेरियस प्लेसेस दैट गिवन. Government services are up to the extent of 5,000 rupees, then there is exemption. From there also it is removed, which means that any value of postal or the railways will be taxable irrespective of the value of the invoice. New services, what has been introduced? So till now we were discussing on services which are changed. Now we will discuss on what are the new services which is introduced. Services provided by a government authority by way of water supply, public health, sanitation conservancy, solid waste management, and some slum improvement and upgradation. These will be exempted. Okay, so all the services provided to a governmental authority, right? Like lot of these municipalities are the local authorities outsource this service of water supply, public sanitation, public health. Now, when a solid waste management, these services, when they are providing to a governmental authority, then they don't have to charge GST. Specifically, they've specified. So from 20th October, they don't have to charge any GST. Post and railway services are liable to GST. Yes, they are liable to GST. Earlier, it was under reverse charge. Now it is under forward charge. Who pays CGST, SGST, IGST in advertisement services? Agency, vendor, or company, sir. So the agency or vendor is one. They've used the term vendor. To understand this, we have said a agent. In case of advertisement services, the vendor pays the GST. Vendor collects the GST. The company, when it receives the invoice, it pays the GST on the invoice. But the primary liability to pay the GST is on the vendor or the agent itself. Okay. Next on value of supply. Clear till now? I know it's a little heavy, but once you read the chapters and then read this, it will be understood. But as a matter of understanding the important changes, we are discussing this. But you read each and every amendment with the chapter, you will be able to understand it. Value of supply. Yeah. Next is registration. Before that, we'll take a break. We'll read this and take a break. So don't feel heavy about this. Tax to be paid on specified actionable claims at the time of receipt of payment from such suppliers. Since there is a change in actionable claims, the relevant change is brought in the value of supply to say that earlier notification 66 said that issued to exempt all registered person from requirement of payment of tax at the time of receipt of advance, right? In case of supply of goods. That's what we had discussed yesterday in time of supply, that any kind of supply of goods, the GST is payable when at the time of issue of invoice or at the due date when you were supposed to raise an invoice, but not on receipt. But now they have said that said notification has been amended to exclude registered person making supply of actionable claims. अगर आप actionable claims supply करते हो, which is what online gaming, lottery, betting, gambling, or casino services. On those services, even though it says services, it is actionable claims, and actionable claims are goods. So, इसीलिए on money gaming, online money gaming, you have to pay GST on receipt of advance also, and you don't have to wait for provision of service. That is the amendment. So online gamings के ऊपर specifically they've given a amendment in this notification because all this money gaming and casino services are actionable claims and actionable claims are goods. तो फिर आप वो exclusion डाल दोगे कि on receipt of advance you don't have to pay service or you don't have to pay GST only on supply of goods. But इस cases में they've given a carved out a exclusion and they've said in case of specified actionable claims आपको advance पर भी GST pay करना है. ठीक है? So when this online money gaming collects the monies, service तो बाद में provide करेंगे और when you play the game. Okay, so आपका deposit करते ही online money gaming will charge the GST because time of supply will be once they receive the money itself. Here, Reliance was given contract by the government. Reliance was given contract by the government for redevelopment of Dharavi slum. Is it liable to GST? It is not liable because it's a redevelopment. That's the reason it is a slum improvement and upgradation is exempted from GST. Ram sold a car used for his personal purposes for 1 lakh rupees. He disposed of his old computers for 60,000 on which no ITC was claimed. He gave away his stock of old consumer goods amounting to 75,000 on which he had claimed ITC to an orphanage. In respect of sale of personal car and disposal of computer, total value of supply will be okay. So what will be the GST liability in this case? They're saying that when he sold a car which is used for personal purposes, if it is used for personal purposes, not into business, he's not into the business of the car. So on that, no GST. On old computer on which no ITC was claimed, since he did not claim ITC. Okay, but was he using it for his business? No. So no GST on that. On old consumer goods on which he had claimed ITC, firstly, he's not eligible to claim ITC, but say he's claimed ITC, it means we will assume that he's used it for his business. And now when he's selling it, then on that GST will be payable. OTC sales only be in case of interstate. OTC sales will be interstate or intrastate. OTC sales is over the counter sales. So over the counter sales, when they do, the person can move the goods interstate or he can move it intrastate. If he gives the address to me at the time of my sale, then based on that address, I will decide whether it is a interstate or intrastate. Clear, Himlata? Actionable claims are goods or service. Manish, actionable claims are goods. In the definition of goods, actionable claims are included, even though online gaming you feel it is services, but it's an actionable claim. And the definition of goods includes actionable claims. So actionable claims are goods. Basically, tax has to be paid on specified actionable claims anytime. You're right. Okay, sweetie, answer was only 60,000. Okay. Okay, so the logic over there, Sweetie Kumari, was that anything which you use for business, now old computers which you purchased, okay, right. So old computers, they are saying that it was used for business. So only those assets which is used for business on that GST will be payable. Personal goods, you have claimed ITC, which is wrong. तो आपको ITC pay करना पड़ेगा, that is separate. But the logic over there is whatever you use for business only on that you have to pay GST. Correct. So only on the 60,000 you will pay GST, right? Practicing past 3 years RTP, MTP question papers is sufficient. I would say that's not sufficient. Once you do a thorough study of the subject, then RTP, MTP of 3 years will help you to revise it. And I would say that is not sufficient because the exams, what I've seen is so vast that they can ask questions beyond 3 years also. But if you go through the 3 years, definitely your confidence will improve and you'll be able to revise it. So this is good for revision, but not sufficient. Okay. So we'll take a break of 10 minutes and then we'll continue on value of supply. Okay. So in the verge of the break, I've got some few nice questions. In case of transfer of stock between distinct person, it is with one PAN from one branch to another branch, you're making a stock transfer. Delivery challan can be issued alone without invoice. Yes, delivery challan alone can be issued without any invoice. So kind request, please take one case scenario question in MTP1. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm not prepared for that. And I don't have access to that. That's the reason, Nistal, I'm sorry, I'll not be able to take it up because I don't have access to BOS app. It is only for the students, and I don't have access to the question. I will take your suggestion. I will inform the uh, members at the institute to just share it with me so that I can take it up next time. Sure. A person travels for business purposes. Can he claim credit of his inward supply? Like, if he's doing a business travel, fine. And if the place of supply is another state, like when we had discussed the place of supply, we had discussed that a person who's traveling to another state, hotel charges is being charged. Now, on that hotel charges, he cannot claim the ITC because even though he's using it for a business, the place of supply is that state and you are registered in this state. So you cannot claim the credit of. An individual registered supplier received hiring charges for provision of non-air conditioner contract carriage for transportation of employees to and from work from the work to MS Siddhi Private Limited, a registered person under the GST. Such hiring is for 3 months. Use of contract carriage is at the disposal of a company. Above outward supply is under RCM or FCM. It is not under RCM because only goods transport agency here, it is not goods transport. Now they are receiving hiring charges for provision of non-air conditioner contract carriage, right? So it can be under RCM or exempt, but this is a contract carriage and contract carriage for transportation of employees to and from work, right? When it is specific to a company, then on that GST is applicable. It is liable to GST under FCM. Sure, Nistala, you can share it in the group. Let me have a look. Okay, so we have discussed on value of supply, tax to be paid on specified actionable claim at the time of receipt of payment. Yeah, this we have discussed that when it is on advances also you will have to pay. Yeah, please explain how to identify the place of buyer in OTC sales. OTC sales means it's a B2C supply and it is to a end customer who is not registered. In such case, if the buyer gives you the address, okay, if he gives you the address, then it will be liable to GST based on the place where he is mentioned. If you have mentioned the place of supply, the location, the address, then that will be the place of supply. If you don't mention any place, you just mention cash sales, then the place of supply will be the where you are registered at. Okay. Recipient is a body corporate. Still, Sweetie Kumari, there is no mention of such under RCM, right? And even if the recipient is a body corporate and it's a hiring charges, we were discussing on RCM and FCM when it is a hiring of a cab with fuel. So this is not with fuel. It is only hiring charges. Then it will be under FCM itself, not under RCM. The next amendment is on registration, wherein there was a requirement that if you understand the background of this case, that if you have Aadhaar verification, then you will get the registration faster. If you don't give your Aadhaar and you don't authenticate it, first is giving the Aadhaar and also authenticating it. If the Aadhaar is not authenticated and you have not validated your Aadhaar, or you don't opt for your Aadhaar authentication itself, then there has to be a physical verification, right? So the physical verification can be before issuance of registration or after issuance of the registration. So the requirement that is the registration will be granted within 30 days of submission of application after physical verification of the place of business. Now, when this requirement of physical verification was there, there was a word which was used, which was very important, that physical verification in the presence of the said person. That is, if you are a proprietor, you are applying for registration, the officer will come for physical verification and you should be available at the time of physical verification. Or if you're a company and you're one of the authorized signatories there, that authorized signatory who is applied should be there at the time when the physical verification happens. Now that requirement has been removed. Physical verification has to be carried out, but that person may not be available at that time. That is fine. That requirement is waived off, which means that physical verification will be carried out by the officer, but not necessary the presence of the person is not required. Okay. Now, presence of the applicant is not required for physical verification. Corresponding amendment has been made in Rule 25. Rule 25 says that where a proper officer is satisfied that the physical verification of the place of business is required after the grant of registration, then he shall upload it within a period of 15 working days following such verification. Matlab, first registration has been issued and then the officer comes the verification. That is, after the grant of registration, then the officer should upload the verification report within a period of 15 working days following the date of verification. When is the date of verification? That is not given, but after he verifies it, within 15 days, he has to upload it. But if the registration is not given and physical verification has to be carried out before grant of registration, then such details shall be uploaded at least 5 working days prior to the completion of time period specified. What is the time period specified? 30 days. So 30 days, 5 days before that, within 25 days, he should do the verification. So pre-registration, there is a time limit of 25 days. After registration, he can do the verification any point of time. The time limit to upload it is 15 days from the date of verification. Got it? And in both the cases, the person's presence is not required. Any other person can still be present and show him the business premises. That is on first aspect of registration. Second aspect of registration is at the time when we apply for registration, we have to submit our bank details. But you will say that I have just started my business. After you give me the GST registration, I will get the bank account, right? In case of a company, when you open a bank account, the banker asks for the GST registration, and GST registration is asking for bank. So it's a chicken and egg story. What to do first? So the GST registration provision is relaxed, saying that, okay, you don't give me a bank account now, but you give me that bank account within 30 days of grant of registration or before filing of your GSTR1, whichever is earlier. Now they have relaxed this. Okay. Earlier, this time limit was 45 days. Now they've stringent and made it that within a period of 30 days of the grant of registration or before furnishing your details in IFF or GSTR1, you have to give me the bank account. Earlier, it was 45 days. Now they have reduced it to 30 days. Now, linked to this is system-based suspension of registration. There is a system-based suspension wherein your registration will be suspended if you don't fulfill this condition. What are those conditions is, if the details of outward supplies furnished in GSTR1 with your GSTR3B, there is a variance, or while doing such analysis, details of inward supplies derived based on the details of outward supplies. Which is if your GSTR1 is more than 3B, then your registration will be suspended. And second is when you are claiming your ITC in 3B more than what is there in GSTR2B, even in that case, it will be suspended. And any other analysis as may be recommended by the council, if there is any difference, your GSTR registration will be suspended. Now, there is an additional point which says that apart from these 2 points, if you contravene the provisions of Rule 10A, that is not giving off your bank account, even in that case, your registration will be suspended. So from 45 days, they've brought into 30 days. Now within 30 days also, if you don't submit, then your registration will be suspended. Then what will happen? You'll have to give your bank account and get your registration activated again. Got it? Renting and hiring different? Yes, renting and hiring is different. Wherein if you're renting means you're renting for a specified time. Your hiring of motor car means you're hiring for a specific trip, okay, from one place to another place. But when you're renting it out, you will take the whole car with the driver or without driver, and you can use it for any specified location, not necessary that from one place to another place. When we are hiring for one point to another point, but renting is you can use it for any location or you can keep it idle. It is up to your disposal. When time limit, again, suspension is over, now cancellation has happened. Now, once your registration is cancelled, we said that after cancellation also, you get the opportunity to apply for revocation. Okay. Earlier, the time limit was 30 days that you can apply for revocation within 30 days. Now that time limit is extended to 90 days, which means your registration is cancelled. Now you can apply for reversing that cancellation, which is called as revocation of cancellation within a period of 90 days from the date of service of order of cancellation, right? And see, even after 90 days you have not applied, then you can take approval from the additional commissioner and joint commissioner with the further period of 180 days. Matlab, government is saying that after registration, if it is cancelled, we know that there is a lot of difficulties in getting a new registration. So you don't worry. If your registration is cancelled, apply for revocation within 90 days. Even then, if you're not aware of it, you've forgotten it, they will give you further 180 days up additional commissioner or joint commissioner say special permission le lo. Okay, first of all, 90 days is 3 months. And then further 6 months. So totally, you will have 9 months after your registration is cancelled to apply for revocation. Further, Rule 8.1 is amended. Rule 8.1 is with respect to registration, which says that to exclude a person supplying online money gaming from a place outside India. Online money gaming is provided for a person in India, and the online money gaming can be a person who is from outside India and they're providing online games in India. Now, if they are providing any games in India, they have to take a registration, right? So 8.1 has been amended to exclude a person who is supplying online money gaming place from a place outside India to a person in India from declaring their PAN and state for applying for registration. When we apply for registration, there is a column for PAN specifically and a column for the state where you want to take the registration. Now, for online gaming, since they are okay to pay the GST, they said that you don't have to provide your PAN and state because you're a foreigner and you will not have PAN in India. You don't have to take a PAN number and you don't have to mention the state from where you want to apply for registration. Okay, so it will be given as a central thing and there is a special jurisdiction for such person to give the registration certificate. Then unregistered person with aggregate turnover up to threshold limit permitted to supply through an e-commerce operator. Okay. The changes here is that in the GST Council, they have decided that approved the scheme of allowing unregistered person to make supply of goods through e-commerce. Okay. Because once under compulsory registration, we have said that if you make a interstate supply or if you make any supply through an e-commerce, then you have to take compulsory registration, correct? Now this has been relaxed. They've said that if you are an e-commerce company, the persons making supply of goods through an e-commerce who is required to collect TCS and having a aggregate turnover in a preceding year and in the current financial year not exceeding the threshold limit. Okay, where the threshold limit, say if you're a normal state, it is 40 lakhs. up to 40 lakhs in the present year and in the previous year. Okay. Both the years, if your turnover is below 40 lakhs, then even if you're supplying through an e-commerce, registration is not required. Only for those people who are below 40 lakhs. Once you cross 40 lakhs, then you will have to take registration. Below 40 lakhs, if you're supplying through e-commerce, special notification is there, which says that if you fulfill the following conditions, then you don't have to take registration. What are the conditions? They should not make any interstate supply. You should supply only through e-commerce or anybody within the state. If you're doing any interstate, definitely you're liable for registration. And they do not make supply of goods through e-commerce in more than one state. Okay. You should not make supply through e-commerce in multiple states. Then you're a big supplier. But if you're supplying only in one state, then this exemption will be available. And such person shall be required to have a PAN number issued. And you have to provide this and declare on the GST portal your PAN, your address, and the state in which who you are wanting to make a supply, right? And such person has been granted an enrollment number. You don't need a GST number, but you need an enrollment number which will get linked with your PAN. And such person shall not be granted more than one enrollment number. Saying that you will have multiple enrollment numbers, no, you will get only one enrollment number, which you have to use it for supply through e-commerce. You don't have to take registration. You don't have to file your returns. Just keep this enrollment number. Okay. No supply of goods shall be made by such person through e-commerce unless such person has granted enrollment. Okay. The exemption you will get provided you get an enrollment number. And once you cross the limit, then you have to take the registration and the enrollment number will be cancelled. Okay. So very good benefit for small traders who are supplying goods through a e-commerce company, because if you want to supply any goods through an e-commerce company for registration, they will ask for the GST number. Now you can tell that I have registered on a GST and I've got an enrollment number. Now you give me the permission to sell my goods on the e-commerce portal. Okay. Any doubts on this? No, all these amendments, Himlata, are not updated in the study material. What I've seen is at the end they've mentioned it, but not everything. So that's why you have to read this separately and read it along with those chapters. Once you read the chapter completely, then read this, then it'll be better. Any questions till now? Okay. Let's go to the next amendment. Tax invoice, credit and debit notes. There is a threshold limit for invoicing. Okay? E-invoicing, who should do? Earlier, it started with a limit of 500 crores. Okay, when it started, it was 500 crores. Then they reduced to 100 crores, then to 50 crores. Now it's come to 5 crores. From August 2023, anybody who has a turnover more than 5 crores have to raise an invoice through an e-invoicing portal, and then they have to do a supply. So just 5 crores, the value limit from 500 crores is reduced to not even 10%, 1% of it. So people who are having turnover more than 5 crores have to get their invoices issued with through e-invoicing itself. Otherwise, their invoice itself will be treated as not a proper invoice, liable to penalty that they're making supply without invoice, because their invoice will not be correct treated as a valid invoice, and the e-invoice will be required to be raised. Applicability of e-invoicing to government departments, PSUs, etc., who are registered solely for the purpose of deduction of tax at source. What this clarification says is the registered person whose turnover exceeds the prescribed threshold for generating of e-invoice is required to issue e-invoice for the supplies made to such departments or establishments or local agencies. So even government departments, for the supplies made to such government, when e-invoicing, you make a supply to government departments or PSU who is registered solely for the purpose of deduction, there also you have to register for e-invoice. Whether e-invoicing is applicable for supplies made by a registered person whose turnover exceeds the prescribed threshold for generating of e-invoice to government departments. Even though you're supplying to government departments, you will have to raise an e-invoice itself. What if the unregistered dealer is making interstate supply through e-commerce? If an unregistered dealer is making interstate supply through e-commerce, okay. So through e-commerce, if you sell, now e-commerce is selling it interstate, because then there is no restricted that through e-commerce you have to sell only thing. If you're doing an interstate supply through an e-commerce, still you have to register. So this notification of e-commerce में intrastate was only for like you have this quick commerce, right? जैसे आपके Zepto हो गया है, Blinkit हो गया है, जहाँ पे आपका सप्लाई इतना फास्ट होता है, उनको सर्विस, उनको एक्सेस देने के लिए दे हैव कम अप विद दिस प्रोविजन कि आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन जरूरी नहीं है. इफ यू आर मेकिंग एन इंटरस्टेट सप्लाई एंड थ्रू एन ई कॉमर्स, आपको रजिस्ट्रेशन लेना ही पड़ेगा. गुड क्वेश्चन मयूर. And the aspect of payment of tax, clarification on charging of interest under section 50 subsection 3 in case of wrong availment of IGST credit and reversal thereof. There is a interest provision wherein if you make supply and there is a shortage in value, then you have to pay GST interest at the rate of 18%. Then there is also another provision under interest, which says that if you have wrongly availed the credit, then also you have to pay interest. क्योंकि आपका credit eligible था 100 rupees, now you have claimed 200 rupees. So 100 rupees excess hai. This is a wrong availed credit which you have availed. Since you have availed the credit wrongly, then you have to reverse it with interest. Now, the main issue which arose was whether in case of wrong availment of IGST credit by a registered person and reversal thereof, for the calculation of interest under Rule 88B, whether the balance in ITC available in the credit ledger to the extent of IGST only needs to be considered or overall. Okay. So 88B, we had said that agar I have sufficient credit balance and I have not utilized it, still should I pay interest? They said no. If you have sufficient credit balance when you have wrongly availed the credit, but you have not, you have claimed the credit, but you have not availed it. मतलब आपने credit ले लिया है, उसको liability pay करने के लिए utilize नहीं किया. If you have not utilized, then you don't have to pay interest. The question came was, I have availed wrong ITC credit of IGST. Now IGST credit I've utilized, but there is a balance remaining in my CGST and SGST. Still, should I pay interest? They have come up with a clarification saying that when the balance of ITC under all the heads put together is going below the credit which you have availed, only then you have to pay interest. अगर credit आपने IGST का claim किया है, utilize भी कर दिया है, but आपका CGST और SGST का credit balance है, still you don't have to pay interest. Okay, if all CGST, SGST, IGST put together goes below the credit which you have wrongly availed, then you pay interest, not otherwise. ड्यू टैक्स पर 18% इंटरेस्ट लगेगा एंड एक्सेस आईटीसी लेवल पर 25%. करेक्ट. वो 24 भी अभी अमेंड हो गया है उसके पहले, विच इट इज 18%. And further, the question was whether the credit of compensation cess shall be taken into account for the purpose of thing. Since ITC in respect of compensation cess can be utilized only towards compensation cess component you cannot consider. Okay, so only you have to consider the component of CGST, SGST, and IGST, and not compensation cess. Next aspect is on TDS and TCS. Details of TCS furnished by the e-commerce to be made available electronically to only registered suppliers. जब e-commerce company TCS collect करता है, the details of tax collected at source under section 52(1) furnished by the e-commerce shall be made available to each of the registered suppliers on the common portal after they file the GSTR 8. Okay. Why is this required? Unregistered suppliers and now unregistered suppliers of goods also are allowed to make supplies through e-commerce till the time their turnover does not exceed. Correct. So will they also get the credit? Since they are not registered, they will not get the credit. Since suppliers of supplies by unregistered person do not attract TCS, so it will not be available. Supplies made by registered persons through e-commerce only will be liable to TCS. Next, I think this is the last one on returns. Additional cases prescribed wherein a registered person is debarred from furnishing details of outward supplies. So we saw that that there are certain conditions that a person will not be allowed to file GSTR1 or IFF in specified situation. What are those cases is what is discussed here. The rule on blocking of the credit, that is Rule 59, mentions the cases where a registered person is debarred, means he's not allowed to furnish returns in GSTR1 and IFF. This we had discussed when we were discussing on the returns part. Now this rule has been amended to provide that the registered person will not be allowed unless he has reversed the amount of excess claimed ITC, which means ITC in GSTR 2B is appearing and he has claimed credit in his 3B returns more than what is appearing in 2B, then he will get an intimation. Now he should either pay that differential or he should submit his reply within 7 days. Now, apart from that, if he does not furnish the bank details, then also he will not be permitted to furnish the GSTR1. So first is he will go for two actions can be possible by the officer, that he's given a notice that he's not furnished the bank details, then he will not be permitted to file GSTR1 and IFF. Second is he will also be blocked, he'll be suspended the registration. So see the multiple actions what the department can take, then he can be barred from filing GSTR1 and his registration can also be suspended. So newly inserted clause E and F are a registered person to whom an intimation has been issued on the common portal as per provision of 88D in respect of a tax period shall not be allowed to furnish GSTR1 for a subsequent tax period unless, so what repercussions, what corrections he can do, unless he has paid the amount equal to the excess ITC or has furnished a reply with the reasons for excess amount of ITC what he can claim. Or if he has not furnished is shall not be allowed to furnish again GSTR1 if he has not furnished the details of the bank account. Manner of dealing with difference in ITC available in auto-generated statement containing the details of ITC and that availed in the return prescribed. So there is a new provision. One is 88D1, which is now explained here. It says that, again, what you have said, we have understood it, that what is reported in 2B, and if you're claiming more than that, then this new rule D says that you will get a notice and you will have to pay the amount or explain the reason within 7 days. This is effective from 4th August. या मयूर कौन सा पार्ट हिंदी में समझाना है कि दो चीजें हैं हमको पता है कि रूल 88D क्या है क्योंकि हमने ऑलरेडी पढ़ लिया लेकिन वो न्यू इंसर्शन इसलिए फिर से दोबारा आ रहा है रूल 88D क्या बोलता है आपका क्रेडिट इन 3B आपने अगर GSTR 2B से ज्यादा लिया है तब आपको एक नोटिस आएगा आप अग्री करके पे कर दीजिए कि हाँ मैंने ज्यादा क्लेम किया या फिर क्यों एक्सेस क्लेम किया है उसका रीजंस दीजिए और अगर आप ये एक्शन नहीं करते हो तो उसका इम्प्लीकेशन क्या होगा कि आप GSTR1 और IFF फाइल नहीं कर सकते क्या और अमेंडमेंट आया कि ये एक तो चीज है कि आप IFF कब फाइल नहीं कर सकते हो जब आप 88B का नोटिस का रिप्लाई नहीं करते हो और एक रीजन आपका GSTR1 ब्लॉक हो जाएगा जब आप पेमेंट आपका बैंक डिटेल्स आप रजिस्ट्रेशन में अपलोड नहीं करते हो आपके पोर्टल में आप बैंक डिटेल्स अपलोड नहीं करते हो तब भी आप GSTR1 फाइल नहीं कर पाओगे. Okay, so those were all the amendments. Like we had said that those questions also we would take. Before that, is there any questions which you have? One is on this aspect of MTP. I will take that up. So we'll take one question on the mock test paper and see how to understand because few students are saying that they're not able to understand the question. Okay, first is on multiple choice questions. Okay, multiple choice questions आप समझ सकते हो. Okay, how to search notification entry by name in GST portal? Hardik, we can only search by the notification number, not by the name in the portal. When you click on laws, you will get guided to another portal wherein all the notifications are saved. There you will be able to get all the notifications based on the numbering. Nishtala, which question do you want to explain so that I can explain that question properly? And probably with the answer, then it will be helpful for you. Yeah, I'll just show that in screen. 1 minute. We'll go with the biggest question so that we're clearing a lot of queries there. Yeah, this is the question here, mock test paper. Descriptive question. Vishnu Limited, a registered supplier of goods and services of Kolkata, has furnished the following information for the month of February. Intra-state supply of taxable goods, including 1 lakh received as advance in January. The invoice for the entire sale is issued on 15th February, 4 lakh rupees. If I change, okay, good question, Sweetie Kumari. If I change my principal place of business to another state, do I take a new registration? Yes. GST is state specific registration. आपका स्टेट ए का रजिस्ट्रेशन स्टेट बी में काम नहीं आएगा. स्टेट ए के अंदर आप लोकेशन चेंज करते हो, देन दैट सेम रजिस्ट्रेशन विल अप्लाई. अगर आप स्टेट ए से स्टेट बी में जाते हो, then you have to cancel this registration and take a new registration in state. Okay. Let's go with this question now. Intrastate supply है 4 लाख रुपीस का, इसमें 1 लाख रुपीस एडवांस है, which was received in January and now invoice is raised in February. ठीक है. So okay, we'll go with this description. तो इसके ऊपर क्या जीएसटी 4 लाख के ऊपर पे करना पड़ेगा या 1 लाख पे? Four lakhs, correct. Because on value of supply of goods, we know on advance January में GST पे नहीं किया है, time of supply is issue of invoice, so invoice issue किया है, तब CGST SGST पे करेगा because it's an intrastate supply. Good. Okay. Second aspect, purchase of goods from a composition dealer registered in Kolkata. तो इसके ऊपर कुछ भी चार्ज नहीं लगेगा. Then, because from a composition dealer when you're buying, he will not charge any GST और आपको कुछ GST पे करने की जरूरत नहीं. Correct. Third part, services provided by way of labor contract for repairing a single residential unit, otherwise than as a part of a residential complex. It is an intrastate transaction. Okay. Services rendered by way of labor contract for repairing a single residential unit otherwise than as a part of a residential complex is liable to GST. Why? Because which is in case of labor services, it is liable to GST. Services by way of pure labor contract of construction, erection, commissioning pertaining to a single residential unit otherwise as a part of a residential contract are exempt, but labor charges for repairing are thus taxable. Okay. So labor charges will be taxable. Only इसमें क्या है रिपेयर है अगर ये ओरिजिनल वर्क्स होता तो ये एग्जेम्प्ट होता बिकॉज दे स्पेसिफिक यूज ऑफ ओरिजिनल वर्क्स बट दिस इज नॉट ओरिजिनल वर्क्स ऑफ अ रिपेयरिंग वर्क तो आप रिपेयरिंग करते हो तो उसके ऊपर चार्ज जीएसटी लगेगा एग्जेम्पशन इज ओनली ऑन ओरिजिनल वर्क्स दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट ठीक है थर्ड पॉइंट membership of a club availed for employees working in the factory. It is an intra-state transaction. Why will I include this here and why they are not included here? I have to only here I'm computing GST payable on outward supplies and not on inward supplies. On ITC, when I calculate, there I will consider. But on my, this is not an outward supply for me. This is a inward supply and this is not liable to RCM. So I'm not including it here. Okay. When I calculate the ITC, that time I will consider this. So they have given a mixture of all outward supplies and inward supplies. You have to be careful and consider only those supplies or which are outward on which you have to pay GST. Third part, GTA received from a GTA has GTA has exercised the option to pay tax at 12%. So if GTA has exercised to pay 12%, then you don't have to pay it. Correct? So this will also not be included. Then interstate services provided by way of training in sports. Services by way of training in recreational activities treating to sports. This we read that this is exemption, right? Why this is not exempted here then? Because services for way of training of recreational activities relating in sport is only for a charitable institution. You're right. This is not a charitable institution, so it will pay GST on it. That is what is clarified in note 3. Services by way of training in sport is exempt under GST only if it is provided by a charitable entity registered under 12AA or 12AB. Thus, in this case, it is taxable. Okay. Then next point is on interstate services provided by this is covered. Then interstate security services provided to Bharat Higher Secondary School for their annual day function organized in common auditorium. So services provided to an educational institution up to secondary school is exempted, correct? But is case mein it is treated as taxable. Any idea why? Correct. Outside the premises. Taxable since outside the premises. Very nice. Everybody is given a correct answer that the services are not provided at the school, they are provided outside an auditorium. That's the reason. Security services provided to for their annual day organized outside the school campus will be taxable as only the security services performed within the premises of a higher secondary school are exempt. Correct. So we have calculated, and fourth thing is inputs to be received in 4 lots, out of which second lot was received during the month. So this is an input transaction. इसके ऊपर output तो नहीं लेगा. So for us, let us leave it now. So GST payable on the output transaction we have calculated. Right now we'll compute the ITC. Opening ITC of CGST is 57,000 and IGST of 50,000. Current year, what is the ITC I have claimed? Let us go back to the transaction. 4 lakh we have considered as output. Now purchase of goods from a composition dealer. On this, will there be any GST? ITC is not available in case of supply of goods where the tax has been paid under composition scheme. And anyways, the composition scheme dealer itself will not collect the GST. Okay, so there is no ITC on this. Labor contract, it's outward supply already considered. Membership of a club. Membership of a club on which I have paid the GST. Can I claim it? Even though if it is for employees worked in the factory, membership of a club is a block credit, so I cannot claim it. Then GTA. On GTA, input tax credit is available for the services received from the GTA, so I don't have to pay under reverse charge. That is clear. Which means what? The GTA has charged me the GST and I can claim the credit without paying under RCM because GTA is charged under forward charge. On 2 lakhs, he's charged 12%. So 24,000, I can claim it because it's an interstate transaction. So I will claim it under IGST. Clear? Interstate services provided. This is outward supply. Bharat Higher Education School. This is also outward supply. Inputs to be received in 4 lots, out of which second lot I have received. Can I claim proportionately? No. In case of goods received in lots, ITC can be claimed only upon receipt of the last lot. This we had discussed. If GTA is paying GST at 5%, yeah. If they say GTA is paying GST at 5%, still we can claim it. As long as GTA is charging, okay, then we can claim it. Even if they charge at 5%, they cannot claim ITC, but we as a receiver, we can claim ITC Mayur. So GTA अगर 5% चार्ज करता है या 12%, वो कुछ भी चार्ज कर सकता है. दोनों का ऑप्शन है उसके पास. अगर वो 5% चार्ज करता है तो आपको तो क्रेडिट उसका मिलेगा. ठीक है. सो आपने आईटीसी क्लेम कर दिया है. टोटल आईटीसी इज 57,000 and 74,000. Rates are 9%. Both inward and outward supplies are exclusive of tax wherever applicable. All the conditions are being availed. The turnover of Vishnu Limited was 2.5 crores in the previous financial year. Compute the minimum GST payable. तो अपने आउटपुट आ गया, इनपुट आ गया. अब आउटपुट पेबल इतना है. इनपुट फर्स्ट ITC of IGST I will claim 74,000 का क्रेडिट है. Payable is 4,500. I will utilize this. Second, I will utilize with SGST because मेरे पास SGST का क्रेडिट ही नहीं है. Somebody was asking how to allocate it. I don't have any credit, so full ITC of IGST I will utilize. Then balance जो भी बचता है from 74,000 I will utilize for CGST. Right now, IGST is fully discharged. SGST is fully discharged. Balance is CGST. I have utilized 24,500 from IGST credit. Balance from 57,000 I will utilize 20,500. Nothing will be payable. Okay. Since sufficient balance of ITC of CGST is available and cross utilization is possible, so I will utilize ITC of IGST for SGST. What is the relevance of this turnover of 2.5 crores? No relevance. सिर्फ आपको confuse करने के लिए दिया है. So be careful. Okay, Hemlata, yes, ITCB can be claimed on receipt of last lot. Yes, when you receive the last lot, you can claim the full credit. So if membership is obligatory under law, no. Membership, even if it is obligatory under law, it is not claimable. There are specific services in the ITC you would have understood then that only if it is cab services, if it is insurance services, only those services which are obligatory under law, you can claim it. Others, even if it is obligatory, there's no obligation under law, But even if it is obligatory, still you cannot claim it. Okay. So that's how we have to solve this, and like how we had discussed, same way they have presented it. Only thing is, in our questions, what we discussed, they were specific outward supplies, specific inward supplies, but they could mix outward supplies and inward supplies and still give you a combined question. Okay. So I think once you do the MTP, then you'll have better confidence. It covers all our questions which we have taken. In case there are some other questions, you could please let me know and we could discuss that. I thoroughly enjoyed the full session on the journey of understanding the GST. I hope I could give you this and you were able to understand it. Where is 45,000 given? Which 45,000? GST payable, Tanishka, from our output, GST output payable. Show you this. Yeah. GST payable we have calculated, right? 45,000, 45,000, 4,500. That is what is coming here. What we have calculated, that is appearing as payable, and for which we have to claim the ITC. Thank you, Lokesh. Your questions were very encouraging for me to delve into a lot of additional things and come up with creative ways of problem solving. I think problem solving is one thing which the institute has brought in for us to make it very effective. Earlier in my earlier sessions, there were only understanding of concepts, no problem solving. That's when the problem solving had come in, and it's really helpful to. And I'm happy to see that the MTPs are designed in such a manner. Sure, Mansi. I will also expect the institute that they provide opportunity for final GST classes and will catch you up there. All the best for your exams. Study well, and as I said, study well with full concentration. You have sufficient time, but very less time. It's not so very sufficient that you could waste time. So please concentrate and study for your exams wholeheartedly, and definitely you will clear it. I could say from my experience that I couldn't clear in my first attempt of my CA final because I could clearly see after the result that I didn't put the full efforts. And second time, I put some efforts, I could clear group one. And in the third attempt for the second group, I had put in wholehearted efforts. I could clearly see the results. So you don't have to repeat the mistakes. You learn from my mistakes, that don't waste any single moment. Just matter of 2 months, it'll just pass by. Whatever things you will lose in this 2 months, the additional leisure, going to family functions, going for a friend's wedding and things, it will come back. You will always meet them later on. This month and next month is crucial for you. At least these 2 months are very crucial for you. So give your wholehearted thing and spend 100% time on your studies. Thank you, Kadambari. Yeah, super cool explanation. Thank you for that. Thank you, Hemlata. If you have understood the concepts well, I'm really satisfied. Ishwar said in Manipur 6 lakhs and Mumbai 6 lakhs. Then which state have to register below 20 lakhs? Both the state registration. Manipur, the limit is 10 lakhs, right? So if you're making a taxable supply, then in if you're eligible for registration one state, in other state also you have to register, because in both the states you're making a taxable supply. Great. Srinivasan Venkatraman is conveying all the best wishes to everybody in the batch. So that, as today is our last session of the batch. Awesome. Wonderful that I'm honored and privileged that you are able to take my session on the last class and take this as a best wishes from myself and Mr. Srinivasan for all the batch members. He's wishing all the best for your May 2024 exams. Yeah, you're right, Mayur. In CA, attempts really doesn't matter. But if you clear at your first attempt, that you'll be so very confident, right? So that doesn't mean that you should have more attempts. Your objective should be to clear at the first attempt. Yes, Pritesh, we could connect. Yes, sir. I will upload the remaining PPTs and the questions which we have discussed, definitely. Yes, live scratching classes. So thanks to the institute and to the board of studies for taking up this initiative, and really good that this has helped you and helped me. Overall, we have helped to learn the subject very well. Great. All your compliments and wishes. I'm thankful to that. I will really save this and cherish this. Best class of GST ever. Thank you, Mayur. Himlata and a lot of other students are wishing all the other students all the very best, and all the very best from my end and from the board of studies. Do well, take care of your health as well, along with the studies. Don't stretch on your health, but take sufficient time for your sleep, sufficient time for your food. Don't overeat your food, don't oversleep, sleep as required, and do your best. Thank you very much. Thank you for the technical team for always being supporting us and being ready for all technical glitches. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir.